Hey, Cindy. Good evening.
Hi.
I am excited to talk to you. I know we both have had a lot going on. I personally have had a few things happen that I have realized I need some areas of growth that have created some unrest for me. And so we both kind of took some notes on what we were experiencing, and I thought we could talk
hmm
about it today.
Okay, that sounds great.
Some things that I recognized for me was I had another person put in their notice that I knew was maybe struggling a little bit, but I didn't think they were going to leave. Like, I thought that was something we could
hmm
maybe work through and like whatever. But they decided they were burnt out and that they needed a different role. And
hmm
so I was like, oh, talking to my upline, and I said, where is the data for me to determine my turnover rates? And so we kind of talked about it and we looked at my turnover rates, and they're a lot higher than I would like. They're above 50%. They're 64% for the last year, which does not look great.
Yeah.
And it
You do
doesn't
have a
feel
small
great.
team though.
I
Yeah.
do.
For sure.
And I have an area that is likely going to have higher turnover rate. It's kind of a stepping stone type of a area. What they do requires someone with a driven personality, meaning they're probably going to be looking for other growth opportunities,
hmm
and whatnot. So I had to accept that, but it still wasn't easy. I asked my boss, I'd really like to know if there's things that I should be doing better as a leader that I can either prevent this, or if there's things that I can do, like, is there something I'm missing? So I asked
hmm
my boss to do an exit interview with my staff.
You had her interview the leaving staff instead of you doing
Yes,
that.
correct.
Okay. Interesting.
Because I
Okay. Did
feel
she
the
find
reason I said that, my thought was, if they haven't told me about their concerns yet, are they going to now?
the
Maybe
point?
not. So my hope was that in a neutral, a little bit more of a neutral environment, that maybe they would share. And I
hmm
did the same thing for someone of her staff that was leaving to a higher level position.
That's a nice give and take. As you say that, I'm like, oh, should we all be doing that? Like having a neutral party reach out to talk to the person instead of because we generally just have the manager do those. And you're right. If they didn't feel safe to say it before, are they going to feel safe to say it now?
Yeah, even if they're leaving, some people will, but not every person is the same. And some
hmm
people are really careful about burning bridges because you never know.
Yeah, totally.
Like, professionally, you got to be consider that. So then the other thing that I asked her to do, and that we kind of talked about, was looking at our market analysis, and are my team getting paid what they should be getting paid when a floor nurse maybe has differential and can make more money
Yeah.
that way. My staff, their compensation is more of a sustained schedule, but they have to work harder than a floor nurse in the sense, yeah, project management, preparation and
Mhm.
planning, organization, um, chasing staff. Like, they have to do that harder stuff, though, in the sense of
Mhm.
like, now you're trying to get your peers to do education, and they also still work in staffing.
Right.
So they're not 100% away from staffing. And then in the exit interview, my boss didn't share all the things, but she did do a brief summary of some of what she said, because part of it was we were said it could be confidential. But if they were okay, that she would share some with me. So I did get some of the feedback, and some of it was actually good. And so that was helpful. And some of it was like, I want you to keep doing this. I want you to keep doing this. What I discovered is this person may not be super honest to your face, anyways. After I discovered that she thought the questions were stupid, and I reviewed the questions and I was like, these are really valid questions. Did you feel safe and collaborative? Like, obviously worded better, but like,
hmm
I don't know. So maybe that still wasn't perfect, but it was still an improvement, and it still gave us information. So that was one of the things that I've done. And I know that you've also been having some experiences. I will say that something I experienced with this, and something we kind of have mentioned before, is it did give me a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I know that that's something that has come
hmm
up for you too.
Yes. Yeah. Before we go on to imposter, did your boss give you anything that you could work on? Like, did she give you any feedback that was useful?
No.
No. Okay.
Not
I
changing
think, like
a lot of the
you said,
stuff.
like this is a unit that is often a stepping stone, and people just don't stay on units like that all the time, and so that's okay. So maybe it's
Mm-hmm.
just not really about you then, which is fine. That's good news.
Yep.
Yeah. I was covering a whole other department for like 2.5 months, and I had to do some really ugly HR cases. Had to like build the cases, like work on the evidence file, and then I had to make proposals that were pretty heavy for, the employee, um and it was really difficult for me, which surprised me because I'm not. This isn't my first rodeo. I've done these things before. I've had to discipline staff. I've had to remove staff. But this one really like settled into my soul, and I was really like struggling to figure out why it was bothering me so much. Legitimately, I was like, I don't disagree with any of the things we're doing. I feel confident that we're doing the right pathway here, but I felt like I was holding on to it more than I should have been. And there was a little bit of imposter syndrome, like by this time in my career, I should be able to just do this and not take it personally and move on. But
Can I say something about that though? I'm really
yeah,
glad that you don't. I know that it's hard on you,
yeah,
but it makes you so much more human and considerate because even if you know it's the right thing, you still know that it's gonna be hard for that person,
yeah,
and that's not easy to do.
yeah. So what I ended up doing is I was like, I think I told you and I told my husband that I felt like I was feeling a little burned out. And I was like, I need to do something. And so I told my husband, and I was like, let's go camping. I think maybe I need some time in the woods. I just really took like a whole day in the woods. We didn't even do anything. Like, I didn't go hiking. I just like hung out in the tent, took some naps, sat by the river, and just like thought, like let my brain just think. And I realized that the people that I've been doing this with are not holding themselves accountable. And so I was holding them accountable for them. And I felt like I was taking that on as like my responsibility instead of being like, you made this decision, you did the behavior, you should be accountable for this. I was like, oh, you don't want to be accountable? Okay, I'll just do it for you. Let me just hold all that shit. Which then I realized was kind of a trauma response for me, like of growing up in sort of an unstable home and having a parent that was slightly emotional immature and trying to hold that for them. And like I was repeating that and I was like, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, put that shit down. That's a bag of bricks you don't need to hold. It's not your responsibility. So, yes, I appreciate what you're saying about empathy. And yes, I do have empathy for for the employee and what this means for them because some of these decisions dramatically impact their lives. And I don't take that lightly. But I also realized that I was probably inappropriately holding on to some emotion that didn't belong to me.
Yeah.
So, have you ever had that happen to you? Have you ever like recognized that in yourself before?
I have seen it, but not to the level that you're experiencing it or have experienced it recently. Mine is
Mhm.
usually I only notice it in smaller scenarios. Um, I probably do it if I'm being honest. If I were in your situation, I probably would, because that you did have several back-to-back situations that were just kind of
Mhm.
heavy. If we're being honest, they were
Yeah,
heavy.
and all of them were projecting out. Like all of them were like, it's not my fault. It's all these other people around me. It's all these other things. Like none of them were like, I made a mistake. And so I think that I was like, okay, well, if you're not going to hold yourself accountable, then I will have to hold that for you. And then I internalized that. It
which
was
is like,
not good for me.
yeah, definitely. I think that that's pretty cool. So when I was talking about my experience with the turnover rates and all that, when I was like, oh, we're doing this
Mhm.
podcast and we're doing all this stuff, like, I shouldn't be having this. I should have everything dialed in and I should be perfect. And that's where also
Yeah.
that imposter syndrome was showing up for me. It's like we have these expectations for ourselves that are not realistic, when in reality these are things that all managers face at some point. Like,
Mm-hmm.
just because we have a period of time of unrest, like for example COVID, in the past we've talked about how COVID burnt out our previous managers and whatnot, and it absolutely did. It was
Mm-hmm.
make decisions, do this, change pathways, do this, and then we got a flood of patients for a while, but we didn't sustain a flood of patients like every other place did. And so it was
Mm-hmm.
constant pivot, constant movement that I
Yeah.
think would burn anyone out. And
Well,
they'd already been doing it for several years.
nobody knew what it was or like how it was going to affect us, what the long-term effects were. So there was so much uncertainty. I think as humans, we're really good at actually managing the stress, but we're not very good at managing the anxiety on the what ifs. And I think that was a lot of COVID. But what you're talking about with that imposter, like, oh, I've been a manager, I've been a leader for so many years, I should have my shit together. I feel like I really embodied this as a staff nurse, that you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, and you have to learn how to take the good with the bad. And I think that's true in leadership as well, except that the good uh, periods of time in the bad tend to be longer than just a day. In a frontline nursing position, it's like you had a bad shift, or you might have had a couple bad shifts. But it's not usually weeks long. And when you're in leadership, the problems that you're dealing with take longer to deal with. And so I think when you have something really challenging going on, you're short staffed, or you have a bad disciplinary case you're dealing with, they take weeks to deal with. And so you have weeks that are hard, and then you have weeks that are fine, and weeks that are good, and you feel successful. And so, like, to me, the resilience as a leader is recognizing that you still have the ups and the downs, but they're just longer periods of time than they used to be as a frontline staff.
Yeah, I agree. That's actually something when I was a frontline staff, when I got to about 10 years of nursing, that was when I recognized, reflecting back, the periods
Mm-hmm.
of time as a nurse I had experienced phases of burnout that I think are actually somewhat normal because they're growth periods, not necessarily burnout, but they are a little bit, because your very first year, you're really gung ho, you're really excited, and you know you want to learn. You're excited you got your job. You're finally working. You're eager, and in a few ways, you usually get humbled. You learn a few things that are the hard way. You learn some things just naturally. You
You
have
have to
some
see
wins,
a
and you have.
few bad things happen to like
Mhm.
get the fear of God in you, so to speak. You
Yeah,
know, like I think
yeah.
you don't really become a nurse until you've seen some really awful things happen, unfortunately, and then you're like, oh, that's why we have these practices so that we don't kill people. Like I
That's
didn't realize that was actually
why.
important.
Yeah, it's kind of true. It is kind of true, unfortunately. But yeah, I recognized that I had periods like after 1 year, and then 3 to 5 years, you have another layer of like, you have been doing it for a while. Why did I choose this? What was I thinking? This is so hard. Is
Mm-hmm.
this really going to be my career for the rest of my life? I had a little bit of that. And then at 10
Mm-hmm.
years, I was pretty comfortable as a nurse at that point. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
listen, I've seen a lot of things. I've been not just a nurse this long, but I also was a CNA before, and I did a nurse extern program, which is like following a nurse for an entire year before I became a nurse. So like there's these
Mm-hmm.
layers of experience that I have by then. You can lead people more, you have more experience, you can speak to things, you can be like, oh, I have seen that before. Oh, I've done that. And then it's kind of
Yeah.
like a win. But then you're like, do I really want to do this for another 20, 30 years, 40 years? How many
Yeah.
years do I have left? You start like
Yeah.
counting in your
How
head,
old
like,
are
yeah. So then there's that little phase there too. And then, and it's not all bad. I have loved being a nurse. I do love being a nurse, but I think those ebbs and flows, just like a nurse, happen as a nurse leader. What do you think? Do you think it has a similar like timeline process that like kind of how I just kind of laid out? Like
The whole theory of novice to expert that I had to read in nursing school that was like called novice to expert. And I do think that that's reflective in leadership because you're starting over, as we've talked about before. Being a nurse, being a good nurse, not necessarily translate to leadership. It's a whole new skill set. And so I do think like your first 1 to 2 years, you still are a novice. And then you're kind of like, okay, now you're competent and you like know how to do the job. But yeah, like every 3 to 4 years, I think that you get another layer of depth. And like, I think I'm having that right now. Like, I think I'm in a growth phase. In fact, my boss actually messaged me yesterday. It was really sweet. So I said I've been covering this other department, and one of the managers of the department I've been covering messaged my boss and said that they really appreciated everything I've done and thought I was doing a great job. And then she had responded back and was like, oh, yeah, I saw this in Cindy from day one, and I see growth in her every day. And I'm like, well, yeah, I think I've had a lot of things thrown at me in the last 3 months that have put that like extra pressure on me to make me have to like peel away some more layers to say like, who's that real leader underneath? So that's been interesting. And part of that, I think, is like figuring out how do I maintain a resilience through some of these challenging times when the workload's heavy. And it to be clear, it wasn't really the hours of workload. It was like the emotional work,
yeah,
like the emotional burden
the weight of what you have to do as a nurse leader
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. And that
Mm-hmm.
can span across several scenarios and situations. The novice to expert theory was popularized by Patricia Benner in her book, Novice to Expert. It was actually kind of based off of a different model called the Dreyfus model of skill acquisition.
So as you were going through your sort of valley in your journey just recently, is there anything that you found helped pull you out of it?
A couple things I recognized. One thing that I recognized is one toxic trait that I noticed that I'm a little ashamed of, but I need to address it. So one of them is when people leave my department, the trauma response too, I kind of initially have this desire to villainize them a little bit. And I have to reel that back in and realize they're not bad. You're not bad. Nobody's bad. Nobody's mad at you. Nothing's wrong. It's just part
not
of
a personal
life.
attack on Taresa.
Correct. So that's a little like vulnerable too for everybody listening. Sorry, but also it's just true. And I know it. I don't always mean to. I had to like kind of reflect on that. Okay, they are not bad because they want to leave, and you're not bad because they have. This is called life, and people just do this.
Yeah.
So there was
Everyone's
that
on their own trajectory and journey, and like we intersect at times, and we parallel for a while, and sometimes we go a different way, and that's just
it's totally natural. I put a lot of effort into people, and I really do want to see them succeed, and I really do want to see them grow. So and that doesn't, just because they changed roles doesn't mean they didn't, right? So kind of some of that self-reflection of that. I noticed I was doing it a little bit today, and then I had to reel it back in, the villainization. But
are you able to do that without somebody pointing it out to you? Can you be like, yeah, that's a really interesting skill set. Like, how do you do that? How do you it seems like you're able to see your own blind spot sometimes.
Sometimes I can. Sometimes I cannot. We were talking about education today, obviously, because we're a team of educators, and how one of our educators that was in the ICU that we worked with was an excellent educator. Incredible. Can break concepts down into tiny pieces that make sense and make you go from 0 to 100 without feeling like you even moved. And it's very natural and easy. And we are reading our book club book. And one of the terms that came up when someone starts being negative is called skunking. Then I was like, well, some of the nicest people are murderers. One of the people looks at me and goes, "You're skunking." And I was like,
wow.
yeah, yes, I can see my own blind spots sometimes. Sometimes I cannot. Sometimes I don't want to call them out because I feel a little bit dumb when I realize them. I think we all do. I don't
Makes
think they're
sense.
comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I would say I feel like I'm still in it a little bit, but I've hired a great new addition. I'm really excited about this girl because one of our weak spots has been dementia education and Jerry Sykes support.
My favorite
And this
topic.
girl has a degree in psychology and gerontology before she ever even became a nurse. So that's like her other degree and her other passion. Before
Yeah.
she became a nurse, she was actually a coordinator at a facility and like worked with these types of patients. So she knows how to manage this stuff. And so I'm really excited about that. I'm excited to see where things go and see how she helps the facility improve care for these elderly veterans that are going to continue to come through our healthcare system and
It's
in
gonna get. I
droves.
think we're in like a national crisis right now, and I've been talking to other people who've been like in more national conversations, and nobody has this figured out right now. And so I think like we're in a healthcare crisis, and so that's really cool. I think everyone's like trying to like put this like, okay, what are we gonna do about this problem? It's clearly coming. It's like I feel like 10 years ago they were like the baby boomers are going to retire someday, and there's not going to be any nurses. But we didn't predict that the baby boomers were all going to get dementia and be really hard to manage.
Yeah,
So,
especially all of it's true. And
mhm.
Alzheimer's and so many different things that we're experiencing and witnessing. It's hard. One of the other things that helped me get out of it was a little bit we did a team activity today, and I think that was really good for all of us just to reconnect
Mhm.
as a team and to regroup and to kind of revisit that. We've been working on a couple things. I have always had a mission and a vision, but one of my goals this year is to maybe readdress that and make sure it's a mission and a vision that we're all in alignment with, in addition to creating a sim lab mantra so that when guests come to our sim lab, they understand what we expect, which is psychological safety. You're here to make mistakes so you don't make them in real life and that type of
I
stuff.
love that.
So we're working on a poster and a saying, but I wanted the team to kind of come up with what they wanted. So I had one of them kind of start it, and then they passed it off to the next person. They're playing with it in like Canva and creating different designs. And then next
That's
week we're going to
awesome.
get together and they're going to fine tune it.
Yeah. Speaking of, we have another episode that was about how to align your vision with your team's vision. So you should listen to that because you should listen to that video.
Yeah, and that's going to be
Um,
on YouTube. So if you're listening on Spotify or
oh, yes.
Apple,
Thank you.
you need to jump over to YouTube. We have a bunch of short videos that are kind of more
Mhm.
helpful into bite-sized pieces so that people
Yeah.
can have another resource for support.
Yeah.
Let's go check it out.
Um, before we end, I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I have been doing that I think were very useful for me to come out of my headspace. So first of all, I think was recognizing what was going on was a big one for me. But our whole health team had all these books as like freebies you could take, and so one of them that I took was called a daily gratitude journal, and I have been doing that religiously every day, and it's been like my one thing that I'm like crap. All the negative things. It's like my one moment that I get to sit down and like think about something positive. So even though it feels like it's very short, um, I'm trying to set the stage for a better tomorrow. And then like you talking about things that are really valuable to you and like linking your vision. So one of the things for me that is really uplifting that I recognize this year is mentoring. And so I have, even though I feel overwhelmed and busy with other employees, that brings me a ton of joy. I forgot, I don't even know what's going on with front line staff. So I've also sort of made myself come into work, go to the units, and just talk to people again. I feel like I had not put enough emphasis on that, and I realized I need to go connect with people because I think when all I see is bad things, it starts to make me think that that's everyone, and that's not true. It's not what's happening. It's not reality. So I had to like go seek out positive things so that I could remember that this is just a blip that's all consuming to me right now, but it's not actually the reality of what the rest of the world is doing.
I love that.
And that was
I
really
think
cool.
the way you handled that was so good. I think the common theme for both of us was something that seems to pop up in every single thing we do, and it's connection. Funny.
Yes. Yes, relation,
The
which
connection brought us
to
out.
me, like if you don't know where to start and you're in leadership, it's just to go talk to an employee and start to build a connection. That's like really when you like break it down to like the Lego sized piece of information, it's like go talk to an employee and
Yep.
like find a connection with them.
Not all of our brains are created exactly the same, and we can remember all of those things. So one of the tips I had given them that I had heard and learned, if I can't remember stuff, is putting notes in your phone with their contact information if you have it, or even creating a contact if you don't, with the notes about them so that you can refer. It is a way to kind of help, and then they feel more valued that you took the time to remember. Even if you don't remember exactly, you took the time to take the notes, which also matters.
Yeah, that's true. You're like being your own corporate exec assistant by like taking your own notes. Like that's what the assistant is supposed to do is be like, oh, this person likes this and this and this, and this is their family's name, so that you sound like you remember and you care. But you have to do it for yourself. It is hard to remember all those details. I know I was talking to one of my employees today who I know is going out of town next week, and I was like, oh, what are you doing again? And I was like, I know you told me this, but like right now I can't recall what you said, and I felt kind of dumb. But she was very graceful.
I think being
like, I'm doing
honest about that, you talked about it. I can't remember the exact details. What was that again? Please share it with me because I'm excited for you. And I think that
remind
also
me
matters.
because I want to be thinking about that. I want to be thinking about this great thing you're doing next week. Well, I'm not doing that. I'll be at work. But
it's okay. Could be worse. We have good jobs, and we do enjoy our jobs for the most part. And I think that there's just hard times sometimes, and I think that's okay. And thank you so much.
I love
really
that
wanted
we
to
can
do this.
Figure out how is what makes leadership sustainable is figuring out how to navigate the hard days, because the hard days is when you really question, is this what do I want to do this for the next 10 years? Can I do this for the next 10 years? Is it sustainable for me? Is it good for me? And if so, what does that look like? And so I think I want to feel successful for a long time. It's really important to me to figure that out. So I love that we get to talk about that.
And I love that we're creating this podcast and working on it and building our community so that people have a place to know that they're not alone. I hope that that's what we're creating. And hopefully we continue to create that for other people.
Yes.
So,
all right. Well, thanks for listening, audience. We appreciate you, and hope
check us out.
We can have you come on the podcast sometime and talk to us about your challenges and what's working well for you.
And we've had some of our stuff has been from other suggestions. So definitely do it. Have a good night.
Good night.